Welcome to the RMAC Baseball Weekly. I'm the media man. That's the RMAC Insider. And we're going to bring you all of the latest action in RMAC Baseball from last week to coming up this weekend. But first, Mr. Insider, how are you on this lovely day?
The sun's shining. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great show. So, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, nursing a little bit of a cough, so that's why my voice sounds all a little bit off and whatnot. But we're going to tough it through. We're going to thug it out. But as we get going into this one, let's take a look at the standings and the rankings for Week 9 rankings, the top 25 from D2 Baseball. Colorado Mesa sits atop with 34-3, the only team with 34 wins in college baseball right now. Sitting at number 1, Metro State climbed their way into the D2 rankings, sitting at 25.
Yes, they did, and I'm happy for them. They were up in the rankings earlier, then they ended up dropping about 3 games to UCCS and some non-conference matchups that then had them drop out. But yeah, ever since then they've righted the ship and just kind of tear. So I definitely think that they are deserving and should be in the top 25, and glad to see that they are in this one.
So Metro reaches into the top 25 on the D2 baseball rankings. As we look at Week 9 of the NCBWA rankings, the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association rankings, Colorado Mesa sits atop at number 1, and down below receiving votes.
Oh, and it's cut off, but MSU Denver is receiving votes, and they're receiving quite a few. I'll see if I can pull this up just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. We can see that they're receiving 29 votes. Frostburg State is receiving 32. So I mean, basically they're sitting at 27th. At this point, and another good series can see them in the top 25 in both these polls.
Yeah, and they came off of a very good series last weekend as they went to Las Vegas. As we take a look at the RMAC standings first, Colorado Mesa sits atop at 20-0, 34-3 overall. Then it's the Roadrunners of Metro State University Denver at 16-0. Then the Mountain Lions, they're sitting at 14-1-1, 25-8-1 overall. Colorado School of Mines at 9-11. CSU Pueblo at 6-10 in the RMAC. Then it's Regis sitting at 4-11-1. Adams State 5-15. Colorado Christian sits at 4-16, and the Cowboys of New Mexico Highlands sit at 1-15 overall in the RMAC. Anything jump out to you right away?
It's still Pueblo. Really expected them to have a better series than they did this last weekend. They avoided the sweep by getting that 4th game against Colorado School of Mines. But it's just a team that, I just feel has a lot of talent, and just waiting for them to kind of, burst out, but they just haven't yet. But so, yeah, at 6-10 right now, to me, that's a surprise. I think Adams State at 5-15, they're kind of in that same boat. They have a significant amount of talent on that team, and just the record, I think, isn't reflecting the amount of talent that they actually have. And then, of course, New Mexico Highlands, they've been in some very close games and some heartbreakers. For them, that 1-15 record there in conference play does not nearly tell the story of how good and talented of a team there is down in Las Vegas there.
Yeah, Las Vegas, the Cowboys, they've been in a lot of games, and then it just seems like there's a late game collapse that almost happens for them, and they end up falling in the games. We'll jump right into the Cowboys. We'll stick with them as they took on the Roadrunners right here in Las Vegas. I tell you something, there was a lot going on in these games this weekend.
There was a lot of runs scored this first game. MSU Denver, they scored 6 runs in the top of the first, going into the bottom of the second. Here, New Mexico Highlands kind of gets their bats going. Jonathan Davis hits one right back up the middle to bring in 2, cutting out MSU Denver's lead to 7-3. But Roadrunners respond with 5 runs in the top of the third with 2 behind this Noah Wicks double into right center. Then we're going to see Alec Martinez. He's going to follow up, with the RBI double to left. And then apparently doubles are just kind of the theme here, as Ryan Rodriguez is going to come up next. He's going to hit a double down the right field line. And, at the end of the third, we have 12-5 to MSU Denver. Top of the sixth, MSU Denver's leading 14-5, and Jared Swarbrick hits his second double of the game. This one to left center field wall to bring in Noah Wicks. The Roadrunners are going to run away with this one, 19-5.
Yeah, and I tell you something, when you're sitting in the press box for that one, and Syverson goes out, throws the complete game, is just on everything. He's got 3 Ks. Yeah, he gave up the 5 runs, but it almost seemed like the Cowboys offense just couldn't find an answer for him. And then you look at Metro State Denver, and it's like they just continue to hit. They continue to hit. They continue to play situational baseball. And they continued to score runs. That was the theme the whole weekend, but really that first game, I can remember looking around our press box and everybody going, yeah, this is gonna be a series that if they can even pull one off, it's gonna shake a lot of things in the RMAC. So game 1, Roadrunners go 19-5. Game 2, little bit different story though. This one was fun to watch.
It was. And, we do have some highlights here. Basically, New Mexico Highlands actually jumped out to take the initial lead in this one. In the bottom of the fourth, both teams still scoreless. Jeremiah Diarizo hits a double down the right field line. Still in the bottom of the fourth here. Isaac McNair brought in Jeremiah Diarizo from second with a single to right center field. The Cowboys have a 2-0 lead at the end of 4. MSU Denver then starts chipping away at that deficit in the 6th with Braden Orem hitting a sacrifice fly to center field that was deep enough to allow Noah Wicks to take up and score from third. Still down 2-1 into the last inning of the 7-inning game. Jared Swarbrick lines one right at the third baseman. Brings in Brooks Rasmussen. Michael Deason brought in the go-ahead run on a sacrifice fly to center. And MSU Denver is going to take game 2 by a score of 3-2. One thing that I think can't be overlooked in this game is going to be, the pitcher for New Mexico Highlands, Ramon Brion, who pitched a 7-inning complete game, allowed just 8 hits, only gives up 3 runs with only 2 of them earned, only walked 2 and struck out 7. You talked about Jake Syverson in the first game. Brion was absolutely magnificent this game, and unfortunately just didn't get the offensive power at the plate to pull off the win.
Yeah, and I don't even think it really was the power or the offensive power that he was in need of. I think it was more of a, if you go back and you watch that game, that 1 run in the 6th doesn't really hurt him. But then there's a couple of defensive breakdowns in the 7th that allow those 2 runs to score. And I think that's what really ended up hurting the Cowboys. It was like a defensive collapse in that 7th inning. And that really made the difference for the Roadrunners to pull that one off. And then they carried that momentum pretty much the rest of the series, including into game 3 in that doubleheader.
You bet. We look at game 3 here. Yeah, this one was all MSU Denver from the beginning. They come up big, scoring 6 runs in the first. You had Alec Martinez for MSU Denver hitting an RBI double. In the first, and he hits a 2 RBI single in the 5th. Then MSU Denver's Royce Van Dyne, he had an RBI single in the first and then a 2-run single in the fifth. And those guys basically, led the team with 3 RBIs each. But then taking a look at, Sam Kaufman, for MSU Denver here, starting pitcher, had a great outing, going 6 innings, allowing just 2 runs, both earned, not issuing any walks, and striking out 3 as he moves, to 3-0 on the season. I mean, 3 games here and 3, outstanding pitching performances by, one of the starting pitchers.
Yeah, and then game 4, I was very, very confused by this one. So Metro puts up 3 in the first. Cowboys answer back with 2 in the second, or 1 in the second. Then they match them 3 for 3 in the third. Then it's like, hey, we can get one more than them in the fourth. And you're sitting at maybe 1 run difference, right? 1 run difference.
Yep, 8-7. Yep,
8-7. They put up 6. You're like, okay, that's not a lot of we can get 6. We've been able to do it this season, and then they go up, put up 15 in the 7th. I haven't seen that all year long. 15 runs in the 7th inning is just a lot of numbers. A lot of guys scoring runs, a lot of guys hitting the baseball, and that was going to ultimately, those 15 runs, I mean, they outscored the Cowboys in the 6th and 7th inning 21-3. When you get outscored like that, you're going to lose games.
Yeah, and that's just kind of shows the potential and ability that MSU Denver has, at the plate. I mean, you look at some of the stats here. Noah Wicks, I mean, he had a great game. He had a great series. And in fact, we'll see how great of a series he had here. But he went 4 for 4 this game. 5 runs scored, a double, a triple. Swarbrick, I mean, we mentioned his name basically every game here this series. 2 doubles, 5 RBIs, going 4 for 5. I mean, you just go on the line. Marcus Abelhausen went 3 for 5 with 4 RBIs, 3 runs, a 3-run home run. They're just, they're like, Mesa. They're like UCCS. They just have that ability to put up numbers from top to bottom of that lineup. And
absolutely,
with Noah Wicks, like I mentioned, as his series here got him, Player of the Week honors for the RMAC Weekly Awards.
Absolutely. So as we move into our next series here, as we're breaking down each series from the past weekend, we'll take a look at Colorado State University Pueblo and Colorado School of Mines. What'd you see in this one?
Yeah, I mean, here in the first, Jason Ariola brings in Jeremiah Sanchez from second with a single. Thunderwolves, take a promising 2-0 lead. In the bottom of the first, Steel Mines' Evan Bilter hits a single, and it looks like Cooper Latino had a great throw to get him at the plate, but the third base umpire is saying that there's interference, so indicating that the run is going to score. With Mines leading 5-3 in the bottom of the fourth, Alex Dunnigan increases that margin with an RBI double down the right field line. And the Orediggers would bring in 3 in the bottom of the fourth to make it 8-3. But then Pueblo's Jimmy Pelletier, he's going to hit one to deep left center for a solo home run. And while the Thunderbolts get another run across in the top of the 7th to make the score 8-5, Orediggers. But in the bottom of the 7th, Evan Bilter, he gets a high chopper over the pitcher's head, is able to beat out that throw and a run scores. Pueblo, they're not going to just roll over and die. In the 8th inning here, Devin Alvarez hits a 2-run single to the right side to tie the game at 11. And the Thunder will score 7 in the top of the 8th to take a 12-11 lead. But the back and forth continues here after Alex Friend tied the game at 12 with an RBI single at the middle. Brody Duvall hits a 2-run triple to right center to give the Orediggers 14-12 lead. And that's how it's going to end. The Orediggers are going to take game 1 of this series. And, this one, 14-12, going back and forth, great start to a series between these two teams.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this one being a very different series because these are two teams that have struggled most of the year that we're not used to normally having struggle in the RMAC. So now we're going to try and they're going to try and get back into their winning ways by playing each other. This was a series you and I thought was going to be pretty even split. I'm very surprised by the way it did play out. For Pueblo and for Mines, really, because I definitely thought this was going to be a series split. So seeing this the way it really ended up playing out was a big surprise to me.
Yeah, with this, Colorado Mines taking the first 3 games of this series, and Pueblo then finally coming back to get that fourth game. That's kind of a surprise as well. I really thought that Pueblo was going to kind of show, the type of talent that they have, but yeah, like I said earlier, they just haven't broken through yet. They're just not, haven't settled in, haven't been able to live up to the potential that they have.
Absolutely. As we look into game 2 between the Thunderwolves and the Orediggers, this one, another close one in 7 innings. Colorado School of Mines ended up pulling off the win here on top in a 14-13 victory. We knew these games were going to be close, and we knew there was going to be a lot of runs scored, but this many runs was definitely caught me off guard for sure.
Yeah, just a couple of highlights here. Just looking, going into the bottom of the 7th, Pueblo's leading 13-10. Mines has the bases loaded with 2 outs, and Ben Leffert clears the bases with a double to left center and ties it at 13, all. The next batter, then Joe Reitz, he's steps up to the plate and he hits a single into right field that brings in Leffert from second to walk it off, with a 14-13 win. And yeah, you gotta love the walk-offs. But it's just Colorado Mines getting it done, and Pueblo just not. Yeah, they're just not getting it done right now.
It almost seems like Pueblo hasn't really had an answer for what's been happening in the RMAC. When they've gotten into RMAC play, they haven't had an answer for these other teams. And you typically see Pueblo play very tight games and play very hard. And you're just not seeing that same Thunderwolves team that we've seen in the past out of the RMAC, I feel like.
Yeah, and especially with the players that they have, you just expect to see more out of them. But yeah, it'll come. It's just they're too talented to not come around and get the wins that we're expecting them to get here.
Absolutely. Let's head to game 3 of this series. 5-2, a little bit lower scoring in this one, but the Orediggers again get the win. And it was looking like this one was going to end up being a sweep when this was all said and done.
Yeah, I mean, here they go up 3-1, and in this series. And before we move on here, Luke Parker for Colorado Mines had a great outing. 7 inning complete games, 7 hits, just 2 runs, both earned, only 1 walk and 6 Ks. We talked about some of the pitching in that MSU Denver versus New Mexico Highlands series. I mean, Luke Parker right there as far as a great start, a great outing. Good to see that for him, and hoping to see him kind of continue that throughout the rest of the year. But yeah, this, as we keep going through the games here, there's a lot of games that have some really good pitching in it. It's kind of impressive to watch.
And as we head into game 4, this was the one that was going to ultimately be the difference for the Thunderwolves to not get swept by the Orediggers. They get this one 10-6 behind the bats of Alvarez, Sanchez, those guys that we've talked about pretty much all year. They stepped up when they needed to here in game 4.
Yeah, and you had Jimmy Pelletier. He hit a grand slam. I mean, right when they needed it, in the top of the 7th there. I mean, it was, a very good game for them. It's kind of what you would expect to see from a Pueblo team, with the talent that they have. Tyler Clements, he's continuing to have a good year. Gave up a couple more runs than he would have liked, but, he's, pitching strong and doing, very well. On the other side there, Jackson K, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, 4 walks, 3 Ks. Jackson, I think, has been doing great the last 3 weeks here, and glad to see that, and hoping to see that just continue.
Yeah, as we head to our next series, this one we both called was going to be a split between the Rangers and the Cougars. As we take a look at the game one highlights, what stuck out to you here?
Obviously, whenever Regis is playing Ethan Wood, he's always going to stick out. He, hit an RBI single to right center in the first. Here in the second, he hits one to deep center to bring in George Smith from third on the sacrifice. Colorado Christian, they're going to start chipping away at that lead in the bottom of the third with Lucas Hinsey hitting a double that falls between the second baseman and the right fielder and brings in Ethan Kang for the Cougars' first run. Regis takes a 7-2 lead in top of the fifth. Here Nikolai Arnold sends one flying over the left center field wall for a 2-run home run. Then in the top of the sixth, Arnold brings in another run. This time we'll see on a double to right center. While Regis has a nice 12-2 lead, then going into the bottom of the ninth, Colorado Christian, they end up putting their rally caps on, and we're going to see Mason Hagel pit. He's going to bring in 2 runs on a single. You're going to have they come in, they score up 4 runs in the bottom of that ninth inning, but only able to bring 4 across, and they dropped this one by a score of 12-6.
Yeah, 12-6 ends up being the final. I mean, we knew this series was going to be a lot going on. If the pitching was on, we knew it was going to be a rubber match. If it was a lot of hitting happening, you knew this was going to be a high-scoring series. I mean, these are 2 teams that have been struggling for most of the year. They're trying to, very much similar to what we thought the CSU Pueblo, the Colorado School of Mines series was going to be. Back and forth games, teams trying to get back to their winning ways, and they've got to go through each other to get back to those winning ways. So we definitely thought this series was going to play out similar to the Colorado School of Mines and Pueblo series, or I guess we thought that series was going to play out similar to this one, however you want to put it. But in game 1, Regis comes out, they put up 12, they get the win 12-6. As you head into the pitcher of the week.
Yeah, Rocco Harmon. He had a great outing. There have been so many pitchers this week that, this had to be the toughest decision all year for, the individuals handing out these awards. You look at, Rocco's numbers, 8 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. Just an impressive outing, deserving of the award. But, boy, there were a lot of pitchers this week that were also deserving of that award that, unfortunately for them, Rocco had a great start here.
Yeah, as we take a look at game 2, 21-6 Regis, they handled business in this one, putting up a 9 spot in the third. And really that 9 spot was going to end up being the momentum that the Rangers needed to carry out throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, and, you kind of have the usual suspects when you're looking at the, box scores there. Ethan Wood, 3 for 5, 2-run home run. Jack Mullen, 2 for 5, a triple and a 2-run home run. Aiden Harrison, a double and a triple. They got some pop in their lineup. They're not quite at that level that they were at last year, but they're gonna get some teams, and I expect them to just increase their record as the season goes on.
Yeah, they could catch a couple teams sleeping, definitely. As we take a look at game 3 of this series, Colorado Christian, this would be the first win they'd get in the series. 6-3 behind the pitching of Ritzman. 6 innings pitched, 6 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Just an absolute dominant performance for him on the mound as they get the win here in this one.
Yeah, another great outing on the mound for another pitcher. It's kind of the theme of the weekend here. And, it was impressive to watch Brady. And, he did great. And kind of what you expect. And then that helps Colorado Christian, get their first win of the series here in game number 3 as they go in then to, game 4. they end up tying it up, getting that series split with a 14-10 win here.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, all this pitching that we've been seeing this weekend, our guests that we're going to have later, they can allude to the fact that when your guy on the mound is just absolutely downright dealing, it makes life a lot easier at the plate to go up there, find your pitch, make sure you can execute, get some runs, play the strategy that you guys need, because you can trust your guy on the mound to go out and do his job and get you guys outs.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's a big game for Colorado Christian. I think that they really needed this win, not dropping this series, getting the split, and, use this as momentum going forward here.
Yeah, without a doubt. As we head to our final series of the weekend, the Colorado Mesa Mavericks, they headed down to Alamosa to take on the Grizzlies of Adams State. Talk to us here, Mr. Insider.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start off here in the top of the fifth. Mesa's leading 4-2, bases loaded, one out, and Tate Blasey steps up to the plate, and then he clears them with a grand slam. In the bottom of the seventh, Adams State tightens up the game with 2 runs coming in on Aiden Tauscher's triple down the right field line. Then Osaiya Iniohosa, he brought in Tauscher from third with an RBI double to left center. Then Seth Recker would add another run with an RBI single, and that cuts Mesa's lead 8-7. And we have the same score then going into the top of the ninth. And Tate Blasey gives Mesa a little breathing room with a 2-run home run, with the second home run with his second home run of the game. And it is a 2-run shot here over the right field wall. Adams State, however, is going to make it interesting in bottom of the ninth when Seth Recker hits an RBI double to center field to make the score 10-8. The Grizzlies are then looking like they might tie it up, or with runners on second and third with just one out. But Sage Ferguson, he gets a strikeout of Gunnar Martinez swinging, and then gets Austin Yee looking, and Mesa gets a 10-8 win, taking game 1 of the series.
Absolutely, they get the win in the first one, and we kind of had a feeling, we saw how this series was going to go, but Adams State, they didn't go to sleep. Once Colorado Mesa was able to put up those 6 in that 7th right there, Adams State came roaring back. This is a team that, if you're not focused on the game you have with them, they're going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, they are. And kind of like I mentioned in the standings, the talent that they have on that team with Recker and Iniohosa, Josh Parks, I expect them to have, more than a 5-15 record, if I remember correctly. And, as the year goes on, that's going to prove they just have too much talent for it not to.
Exactly. Absolutely. As we head to game 2, this one, the Mavericks took care of business behind Reuter. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 2 walks, 8 Ks. Kolby Felix 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs, a double and a homer. Cameron Cartwright, who we've talked about a bunch, 2 RBIs and 2 runs on a double. Iniohosa, he had a 3-run home run and also pitched in this one. Just too much offense by the Mavericks, really, in this one.
Yeah, you look at the starting pitcher for Mesa, Caleb Reuter. He had a great outing. Well, it would have been 3 weekends ago, a little bit rough one 2 weekends ago. Absolutely phenomenal one last week. He then gives up 3 runs in the first year. But then after that, he ends up pitching a 7-inning game, or 7-inning complete game, only giving up those 3 runs. Doesn't give up another run the next 6 innings. Has 8 Ks, only walks 2. A great dominant performance like you would expect from Caleb.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. As we head into game 3 of this series, this one was, no other way to put it, all Mavericks, as they put up 20 runs and behind the pitching of Eisenhower, behind their offense that we can't say enough about, and how many runs they've been able to score. Just domination by the Mavericks in this one.
Yeah, and obviously, Jackson Eisenhower, again, talking about pitchers this week. I mean, Caleb Reuter, Jackson Eisenhower here. 4 innings pitched, 4 Ks. 1 walk, 1 earned run. Uh, when you have an offense like Mesa, it kind of makes you a little comfortable, on the mound here, where yeah, they get up big and you just go out there and have fun, do your thing, and that's what Jackson did, and yeah, picked up his 5th win of the season.
As we take a look at the final game of the series, Game 4, Mavericks would end up using this one to complete the sweep, 13-1. And the offense, again, they just went absolutely off.
Yeah, Kolby Felix, a couple doubles in the game. He hit Cameron Cartwright. He went 2 for 4 with a double of himself. Ezra Farmer, see him basically every game in these stat lines. Tate Blasey, he had a great series this series. And yeah, Joey Blank, I mean, he's just a ball player. He can do it all. He just gets it done. Offense, defense. He does the little things that does helps the team win. And yeah, they're impressive, no doubt.
As we look ahead to this weekend's games, as we transition over, we'll look at this weekend's games and what we've got left for this weekend. We'll start off with the Cowboys and the Thunderwolves, both teams looking to get back to their winning ways. We'll just give it a quick rundown of who we got in the series, what we look like in the series, and we'll get you out of here. What you got, Mr. Insider?
I've been going with Pueblo, thinking that they're going to be turning things around for the last 3 weeks here, and they've kind of burned me in the picks in each of those weeks. I feel like they have to break out here pretty soon. This isn't kind of the Highlands teams of the past where you think, okay, well, here's one where it's going to be kind of easy for them to get things started and get things going. Rather, I mean, Highlands had some great series against both Mesa and UCCS, 2 of the top teams in the conference here. And looking at last week's series, those first 2 games, I'm sure that they thought that they should have came away with those, especially when Ramon was pitching in that second game and how well he did. Um, I'm gonna go with a split on this one. I think that Highlands, if they play up to their potential, they can take at least 2 from Pueblo, and Pueblo, they're just not playing to their potential. If they do, I do think they sweep, but they're not doing that. I think it's gonna be a split in this one.
I will not have a pick in this game, so we'll go to the next series. Colorado School of Mines taking on the Rangers up there in Regis. What do you got for this one?
No, this is going to be an interesting one too. I was very impressed with Carl Mines' play against Pueblo last week, but at the same time, I was pretty impressed with Regis playing Carl Christian as well. With it being in Regis, at their home field, I think this one's going to be a split as well.
Yeah, I see this one being a split with it. The fact that it's just at Regis, I think this one goes down as a split. I think if you're in Golden, it's a little different, but yeah, I see this one as a split.
Yeah, excited to see how Luke Parker does after his great performance last weekend, and also excited to watch Jackson pitch again. He's had, like I said, about 3 weekends in a row here where he's had put up some great numbers and done a great job, and excited to see him pitch in that this weekend as well.
Yep. As we head to the next series, it'll be the Cougars taking on the Roadrunners. I mean, the fact that this is at Lower Downtown makes this kind of an easy pick for me. I see it as a sweep, Roadrunners.
Yep, I'm gonna do the same thing. See this as a sweep. Their pitching is impressive. I mean, Syverson's great. Kaufman had a great outing this last weekend, and then you go to their lineup, and uh, it's just they're as good as anybody in the conference from top to bottom. They're cracked the top 25 again in the D2 baseball. They're receiving votes and just right outside the top 25 in the National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association rankings. And yeah, I think this is going to be a 4-0 sweep for them.
And then the final series, the series of the week, as we just got done talking to the two gentlemen from the respective two schools, the Mavericks host the Mountain Lions. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This one goes 3-1. Each game goes close. The only reason it ends up being 3-1 is because you are back in Grand Junction. If this is in Colorado Springs, I think this is a very different series. But I think the fact that it's tough to go to Grand Junction and win in any sport. I think this one goes as a 3-1 series victory, however, for the Mavericks.
I think Mesa's going to take the series. This is a tough one. Mesa has a perfect conference record. UCCS, they had the tie to Regis and they dropped that first of the 4-game series to New Mexico Highlands. But at the same time, Highlands played Mesa tough. I think we're in for some very good baseball here. I think it's going to be 3-1 also.
So I'll tell you this: Game 2, that's probably going to be the one game that I really, really, really am going to want to watch. Ryder Mancuso from Palisade High School goes back to Grand Junction. He's already done it once. But let me tell you something. Being a kid from that Grand Valley area, when you play against Mesa, you're out there having the time of your life. Your adrenaline's high. Your stuff works because you want to beat Mesa. That's the hometown thing. You want to beat those guys that are from your hometown. And when you have other guys that, in the SEC, they're from Knoxville and they went to Vanderbilt, or they're from Nashville and they went to Knoxville, and they go home to play that team. You see that, and you're going to see that this weekend. Game 2 is going to be probably, in my opinion, one of the most fun games of this series. This whole series is going to be fun. But Mancuso getting that start game 2 against Reuter especially is going to be a fun one. Obviously, Fink against Hohenstein is going to be another one to watch. Eisenhower, Erickson in game 4. Brown and just top to bottom, this game is going to be fun. But game 2, watch Mancuso. He's gonna be feeling good back at home in front of the family when they come out to that game wearing their black and gold.
And with Mesa being ranked number 1 in both of the rankings that we look at each week. I mean, if they didn't have a bullseye on their back before, I mean, it's just it's there, but it's probably 10 times as big now. I think every team's going to be gunning for them, and for a lot of teams, it's how they're going to gauge how good their season is this year. That's not the case for UCCS here, but with UCCS, knowing that, hey, we had a tie, and then we, had that loss to New Mexico Highlands. If it isn't for, those 2 games, I mean, they only have 6 losses on the season, same as MSU Denver. Well, they beat MSU Denver in 3 games. I mean, they're easily ranked, at this point without, those 2 games. I think that, with Mesa being, number 1, I think UCCS is going to be looking to show, really the nation, how good of a team that they have. And I think they're coming out, swinging bats, and both these teams can put up, runs. And I think we're going to probably see 2 games where, there's quite a few runs scored by both teams. And I think we're going to have 2 other games where there's, this could be, your 4-3 or 5-4, type of games. But yeah, I think with Mesa, with it being at home, I think they take the series kind of we talked
about. Well, that's it for RMAC Baseball Weekly. Mr. Insider, I want to thank you for putting this on and putting this all together. All this stuff you see on the screen, that's him. He does all that, works hard. Man, I appreciate you a lot, sir.
appreciate that. And, we'll keep getting better at this week after week. And we come a long ways from that first episode, that's for sure. So, but it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, gotta love it. Gotta love RMAC baseball.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see you all next week as we recap the RMAC baseball and we do it again. We'll see y'all next week.